Welcome back to another video on Virginia child support. This video provides general guidance on when to impute income to a parent. There will be times when a parent comes to mediation and says he or she is currently unemployed or recently changed jobs making significantly less money than before. This video will assist you in how to work through these issues. With this said, you should talk with your local mediation coordinators, seasoned mediators, judges and DCSE attorneys, or court specialists to see how courts in your neck of the woods handle income imputation. The income imputation amount will vary based on geographic locality. For example, the income imputed in Tazewell JDR Court will vary greatly from the amount imputed in Fairfax JDR Court. Here are the topics covered in this video. First, we will go over the ins and outs of voluntary unemployment and voluntary underemployment. Next, we will learn about the two-step process for imputing income. And finally, we will finish up with two special cases, those being imputing income to a custodial parent, and special rules dealing with a motion to reduce child support. So let's get started. Meet John, a fitness fanatic. John quit his job as a physical therapist assistant, making $52,000 a year, to train full-time for the upcoming National CrossFit Championship. What do you think? Is John either voluntarily unemployed or voluntarily underemployed? If you said John is voluntarily unemployed, you are correct. Since John is no longer working, he would be considered unemployed. Because he quit his job due to a personal preference which is detrimental to his paying child support, his loss of employment is considered voluntary. Meet Jack, a math teacher. Jack left his teaching position making $85,000 a year to take a $55,000 teaching position when he relocated due to his military spouse being transferred. Is Jack either voluntarily unemployed or voluntarily underemployed? Even though Jack relocated to move with his current family, it was still a personal preference to quit a higher-paying job that detrimentally impacted supporting his children from his prior family. Jack's changing teaching positions would be considered voluntary. Because he chose to quit a higher-paying job for a lesser-paying job, he would be considered voluntarily underemployed as opposed to voluntarily unemployed. Meet Fred, a forklift operator. Fred's company laid him off due to lack of available work. Fred is now receiving unemployment compensation while he is looking for other employment. Is Fred voluntarily unemployed or voluntarily underemployed? No, he was terminated not due to his own fault. In general, when parents are receiving unemployment, they are terminated due to no fault of their own. You would use Fred's unemployment compensation to calculate the child support. Meet Denise, a former over-the-road truck driver. Denise's employer terminated her as a truck driver when the court suspended her CDL license for a DUI. Is Denise voluntarily unemployed? Yes, she is voluntarily unemployed due to her no longer being qualified to perform her job. Why is she no longer qualified to drive a truck? Because her license was suspended due to her own acts of driving while intoxicated. Meet Bob, who has been dealing with a serious illness being in and out of the hospital. Bob lost his job at a local supermarket due to his missing work. Is Bob voluntarily unemployed or underemployed? It depends. If Bob can establish he missed work as a result of the illness, then he would not be at fault and not be considered voluntarily unemployed. Meet Sheila, who quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom for her and her husband's newborn child, for whom support is not being sought. Is Sheila voluntarily unemployed? Yes, like Jack, the school teacher, her new family priorities are conflicting with her responsibilities with her former family. She is between a rock and hard place. Although Sheila's preference, like Jack's preference to relocate, was the right decision for her current family, it is considered detrimental to the children for whom support is being sought. Meet Henry, who was recently released from jail after serving a 90-day jail sentence for assault and battery. Henry is chilling as he readjusts to society. Henry, who is in good health, had been unemployed for over a year prior to his incarceration. His last job was at a staffing company, where he was assigned to a warehouse loading and unloading trucks. Henry had completed that assignment with the staffing company. Is Henry voluntarily unemployed? Yes, he is voluntarily unemployed. This situation is different from the ones that we have previously discussed because there has been no loss of employment. Nonetheless, Henry is a healthy person who has demonstrated a capacity to work. His decision not to work detrimentally impacts the support of the child. Meet John, who gave up his medical practice to go work at the corner market because he didn't like the hours he worked. It was interfering with his parenting time with his children. Is John voluntarily underemployed? Yes, he is voluntarily underemployed. In making any decisions to change employment, the court will evaluate with consideration of the good faith and reasonableness of the employment decision. If John took a lowering-paying job in the medical field so that he could parent the children for whom support is being sought, that would be one thing. But to have such a drastic change in career shows a lack of good faith and reasonableness in his employment decision. Now that we have covered the first part of the process in determining whether the parent is voluntarily unemployed or underemployed, the second step is to determine how much money to impute. The golden rule is that the imputation amount cannot be speculative or based on conjecture. With that said, the three most common ways to impute income is using recent earnings from a pay stub, W-2, or 1099 form. If the parent has worked certain jobs or has a trade or skill, then utilize the Bureau of Labor Statistics Wage Survey to impute an amount based on what a person in his or her geographical location is making performing the skill or trade. The wage surveys can be accessed through the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, referred to as O*Net website. Alternatively, use minimum wage for a person who is healthy but has very limited employment history. Let's go back to John and Jack. We now have determined that John is voluntarily unemployed and Jack is voluntarily underemployed. What criteria should we use to impute income? Should we use prior earnings, the Bureau of Labor Statistics Wage Survey, or minimum wage? Good answer. We can use recent prior earnings since we know that John had recent prior earnings of $52,000 per year and Jack had recent prior earnings of $85,000 per year. How much income should be imputed to Henry? Option 1. Impute minimum wage. The current minimum hourly wage is $12. The number of hours worked per week may vary by locality. Some jurisdictions may impute minimum wage at 40 hours per week, others may do less. You should check with your mediation coordinator, courts or DCSE on how many hours to impute. The second option is to obtain Henry's earning capacity for a warehouse employee through the Bureau of Labor Statistics Wage Survey. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is a part of the United States Department of Labor. The Bureau of Labor Statistics compiles the Occupational Employment Statistics Wage Survey. The Occupational Employment Statistics Wage Survey contains employment and wage estimates for about 800 occupations. The Bureau of Labor Statistics releases the Occupational Employment Statistics Wage Survey every March for the prior year. The wage estimates in the survey are made available at the national, state, and local levels. An internet search makes it easy to access the Occupation Employment Statistics Wage Survey by Googling for O*Net. Here the median wage for a warehouse laborer in the Hampton Roads area is $35,670 annually, with a low end of $24,920 and a high end of $46,020. The amount imputed to Henry would be dependent on his work experience. If Henry has worked as a warehouse laborer for 10 years, then it would be reasonable to use at least the $35,670, the median amount of annual earnings. Here is a demonstration on how to obtain the wage survey information. To get to the website, Google O*Net. Then click on O*Net online. On the top right of the web page, type warehouse laborer and click enter. Next, select laborers and freight and scroll down to almost the bottom of the page. As you can see, the website contains a lot more information on warehouse laborers than just wage information. Once you get to wages and employment trends, enter the zip code and/or state. Here, Henry lives in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Click Go, and the requested wage information appears for national, state, and local wages. It lays out the low end, middle, and top wages. Scroll down and you will see detailed wage information for each metropolitan area in Virginia. To download this table in an Excel worksheet format, look for Full Details heading, and next to Save Table click on XLSX link. and the file will be downloaded to your device. Now that we have hit all the major processes to determine how much monthly income should be imputed to a parent, let's go over the two special cases. We will first go over rules regarding imputing income to the custodial parent, and follow up with the special rules about imputing income to the non-custodial parent for motions for reduction. Section 20-108.1 Section B3 provides guidance on whether to impute income to the custodial parent. If a child for whom support is being sought would need daycare, not only would you impute income to the custodial parent, but also you would impute work-related daycare costs that the custodial parent would be paying. What happens if work-related daycare cost is unknown? What do you do then? You would not impute income to the custodial parent. What if the child subject to the proceeding is a teenager and does not need daycare? What would you do? Then you could impute income to the custodial parent and daycare would not be an issue. Here is the specific language of Section 20-108.1 Section B3. Income may not be imputed to a custodial parent when a child is not in school, childcare services are not available, and the cost of such childcare services are not included in the computation. The best practice is to check with your mediation coordinator or your local courts on whether to impute daycare cost, under what circumstances and how much. Daycare costs vary significantly across the state. In many instances, the imputation of daycare cost increases the monthly child support obligation. In other words, it may be more advantageous for the non-custodial parent if there was neither income or daycare costs were imputed to the custodial parent. With imputing income to the non-custodial parent for his or her motion for reduction, the court should at least impute the income the non-custodial parent was making at the time of entry of the prior order, unless the non-custodial parent can show that he or she lost that job due to no fault of his or her own. In legal jargon, the non-custodial parent has the burden of proof to demonstrate that it was not his or her fault for no longer working for this prior employer. Does that mean that the non-custodial parent should be denied a reduction in child support? Not necessarily if at the time of entry of the prior order, the custodial parent was paying daycare cost, but the child no longer currently needs it, then the non-custodial parent may very well be entitled to a reduction in child support. Under these facts, use the non-custodial parent's prior earnings, but remove the work-related daycare costs from the guideline. So that's it in a nutshell on how to impute income to a parent. So before we call it a day, let's recap what we just went over. Imputing income to a parent is a two-step process. The first step is to determine whether the parent is voluntarily unemployed or underemployed. Did the parent quit his job or get fired for cause, or did the parent lose the job due to no fault of his or her own? Whether a parent is receiving unemployment compensation is one indicator for whether he or she is voluntarily unemployed or not. In the event the parent is voluntarily unemployed or underemployed, look to recent past earnings, minimum wage, or the Bureau of Labor Statistics Wage Survey to determine the income amount to impute. When imputing income to the custodial parent, be mindful of the requirement to impute daycare costs to the custodial parent, if required. It's a good idea to find out how the work-related daycare cost imputation is handled in your area. Lastly, for motion for reductions, the non-custodial parent has the burden of proof to demonstrate that the reason he or she no longer makes the money he or she made at the time of entry of the prior order is not due to his or her own fault. Even if the court is going to impute the non-custodial parent's prior earnings, the non-custodial parent may still be entitled to a child support reduction, because other circumstances have changed, such as increase in the custodial parent's income, or the children's health insurance costs decreased, or the children's work-related daycare costs decreased. Well, that does it for this video. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.